This is The Top, where I interview entrepreneurs who are number one or number two in their industry in terms of revenue or customer base. You'll learn how much revenue they're making, what their marketing funnel looks like, and how many customers they have.
I'm now at $20,000 per talk.
5 and 6 million.
He is hell-bent on global domination.
We just broke our 100,000 unit sold mark.
And I'm your host, Nathan Latka.
When I do webinar interviews or I give big speeches to thousands of people all over the world, I usually will talk about data and sometimes show my dashboards, like my SaaS dashboard as I'm growing my SaaS company to top inbox, or my website dashboard, which shows how I take impressions to convert them into email leads and convert them into customers for nathanlatka.com. The funny thing is, guys, I build these dashboards with myself, no developer, and it's basically free. And I use one tool to do it. You can see the tool at nathanlatka.com/analytics. I'll tell you more later in the show. This is episode 668, and coming up tomorrow morning, we learned from Dean Graziosi how to do his first real estate deal when he was just 18 years old. Now, he shares with me how much money he's doing in total rental income. Here's a hint. It's way above 200 grand per month. Tune in if you're interested in real estate. Good morning, everybody. My guest this morning is René. He's the founder and CEO of Bill.com, the leading business payments company. He's a FinTech industry veteran who's been working to simplify business payments since 1999 when he founded PayCycle, which was later acquired by Intuit in 2009. Bill.com is now working to help bridge the digital divide between banks and businesses, partnering with 3 of the top 10 U.S. banks and 45% of the top 100 accounting firms. He believes that banks play a critical role in the advancements of FinTech. Now, while technology advancements in Silicon Valley startups are driving much of the industry's change, René believes that banks are and will remain squarely at the center of the financial universe for quite some time. René, are you ready to take us to the top?
You bet. You bet.
Now,
thank you for having me, Andrew.
I'm glad you're on. Andy, from the CEO at Wealthfront, would disagree with that statement that he believes banks will remain squarely at the center of the financial universe. You know, he told me his model is basically look at what traditional banks are doing, figure out how to do it with robots, and put them out of business.
You know, I think when it comes to people's money, especially businesses, it's just not the case. I mean, the average transaction we do close to $40 billion a year in money movement. And the average transaction is $1,700 to $2,000. And that amount of money is just a significant amount of money for both parties being involved. And the bank's a significant factor in helping businesses actually transact. And businesses are going to go to their banks for loans. And I think there's ways to help banks. There's ways to disintermediate. But I think for the most part, when it comes to this type of volume that we're talking about, banks are going to be involved.
Now, I'm going to want to go back, guys, in this interview, and René and I are going to talk about his first success, which was PayCycle, 1999, which he sold to Intuit. But first, I want to just tease you a little bit more with what he's currently working on. So, René, describe kind of the business model at Bill.com. What do you do? You mentioned transaction volume, and how do you make money?
So we make doing business really easy. So we automate the back office for businesses. We automate their payables. We automate their receivables. And the way we do that is we kind of take all the paper, we take all the workflow, we take all the payments, and we take all the integration with the accounting software and we put that into a simple, seamless app that's accessible on your phone or obviously from any web device. So, and what that means is we have a subscription model for businesses. So depending on how many users they have, they're going to pay us a subscription fee. And then they pay us transactional fees for whether it's a paper payment, because believe it or not, there's still, when a customer comes to us, 95% of their payments are paper-based. And we're able to move that to, probably 35 to 40% over the course of the first 6 to 12 months. So electronic payments are cheaper, but we do both paper and electronic payments and have subscription fees.
And if I split out your revenue model here, which one of those are bigger in terms of, is it the SaaS model making you more money or the fees?
Yeah, the subscription model is the kind of the core revenue business model that drives the business.
Okay. And just for curiosity, because this will be easy to compare to others, in terms of fees that you take on money processed, what do you take on average?
So the thing that's really, I think, nice about what we do and pretty helpful for business because the dollar amounts are so large is we charge 49 cents for an electronic payment, period.
That's it?
That's it.
Interesting. Okay, good.
And we charge $1.49 for a paper check. So it just kind of depends on, whether the customer is able to get their vendors to join our network. And we have over 2 million entities that are in our network now that use us to pay and get paid.
Now, when you say 2 million entities in your network, are those 2 million SaaS subscribers paying you monthly? Are those customers or just users? Or
those are probably the best way to think of it is users. They're, all of our businesses invite their businesses in to collaborate. So it's not the paying customers, it's the entities that they're paying.
Yep. No, one of the things I love about the fintech space that I'm very jealous of, and I'm jealous of you, is that you have kind of a natural viral coefficient built in, and that if someone says, is using Bill and they're sending an invoice or whatever, a check or to somebody else that doesn't use you, it's a natural viral coefficient.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that grows every year, and it grows very, quickly. So it's a nice part of our business model.
Well, good. Well, let's dive and real quick. Actually, before I dive back to more in your history, is the company bootstrapped or have you raised capital to date?
It is not. Each company I did start probably for the first year with money in my back pocket. But then we moved quickly into raising capital, and so this one we have about 110 million from venture capital in the company over the last 10 years.
So that's a teaser. Let's go back now. Take me to 1999. How old were you in 1999?
I would have been 32.
Okay, and was that your first shot? You're stepping up to the plate. That's your first swing at doing your own thing, or what?
I worked at Intuit beforehand, so I worked there for 5 years. I launched a couple of products and managed a couple of the businesses there, the bill payment business, the card business that we had, and the payroll business. So I had some experience of innovating products for Intuit, which in and of themselves were businesses for the company, but it wasn't the same as kind of managing and running all of it on your own and feeling all the weight and all the responsibility to actually make something happen. So I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. Dad and granddad each had many businesses in their life. So I grew up around that. But
tell me about one of them.
So, the one that the last one my grandfather had was a company that did automatic data processing, which they eventually sold to automatic data processing, ADP. They did.
That seems like a good landing spot.
Yeah. They did general ledgers. They did payroll. They did a lot of this, the things that I've actually done in my career. So I kind of grew up around that. And in fact, the night I was born, my mom was sorting punch cards for the largest defense contractor in D.C. That was doing a payroll job. So
fascinating. So, the ADP stuff that your grandfather was doing, was that digitized? And if so, he must have been right at the beginning. Because the internet was just being born.
Yeah. Well, actually, it would have been 1960 that he started investing. My grandfather he had lots of businesses, from farming to stores to car dealerships. And the last one was really around, this data processing. So he took his profits from doing citrus in Central Florida and threw it into data processing. And then my dad opened up and ran a couple of those businesses for him up in D.C. And that was, what I was born into in the 60s.
Did you go to college?
I did.
Interesting. I asked that because you come from a family of entrepreneurs. I was curious if they kind of supported that or if you kind of just skipped that entirely.
Dad was pretty, he actually ended up going back to college. So he went and worked for his dad, started this business in D.C., and then eventually really felt he needed that experience. So he went back to college, got his undergraduate, and got his MBA from Wharton. And did it at night. And so I think he always felt like we should just get the education because there's just a lot of value in education and stuff. And proven true.
Yeah. When you fast forward now to PayCycle, there's a lot of folks that listen into this show who are in a corporate environment and are looking at spinning something out. And many times they say, Nathan, I know the company just needs this. I can't get the resources to do it. I should just go build it myself and then flip it to them. Is that how you came up with the idea of PayCycle? How'd it work?
It was, there was no concept of flipping it to Intuit when we started. It was, the idea was there's got to be a better way to take advantage of technology to make payroll easier. There was some confidence that we knew how to build and develop solutions that customers, would enjoy and like and find value in. And so it was more just looking at the landscape and seeing what was possible and knowing that Intuit didn't have the capacity at that point to invest the way I wanted to invest.
Just from a human perspective or a financial perspective or what?
It just wasn't a focus yet.
Got it. So what was PayCycle? What did it do?
It did online payroll.
That's it. So just online payroll.
And so we, Bill.com, I would say, are helping define a category around automating the back office. PayCycle was not defining a category payroll. ADP and Paychex did that. We were just doing online payroll. And we started with household payrolls, which Intuit did not want to do at all. And then we moved into serving accountants and small businesses, which Intuit did want to do, but it took them, they didn't start doing anything on the internet really until 2007, I think, when it came to payroll. So, it wasn't going to become a priority for them for a long time. And I just was anxious to try something. And by the way, it was 1999. If you were going to go and leave a very nice paying job, that was a time that seemed like a good time to do it. So I was lucky that, it worked out because it was a hard time. I raised a lot of capital for that business too.
How much?
And, we raised just under 50 for that one.
Okay. And what did you, I'm curious, what salary did you give up at Intuit to say, you know what, I'm going to depart from this and go take a risk?
If you were looking at, the options and everything that was kind of outstanding, my career was growing and accelerating, easily, $300,000 to $400,000 a year is probably what I.
And so you give up, you do PayCycle, you grow out, you raise $50 million, you build it over a decade, Intuit comes to you, decide to sell it. What'd you sell it for?
We sold it for $170 million.
And was that like, was there an earnout in there? Was it all cash, or cash plus stock and earnout, or what?
Yeah, it was all cash, and we sold in 2009, which was kind of the bottom of the recession, right? So
that's impressive.
So yeah, it was a very, very strong outcome financially for the investors and for the company and the customers. I mean, it was a good outcome. I had already left the day-to-day at PayCycle to start Bill.com in 2006. So I was a board member, and I was an active board member, but it really was kind of up to the management team, and the board supported their decision.
That's great. That's really great. So let's fast forward now into Bill.com and go back to where we kind of started the conversation. So you said you've raised obviously $120 million. You're focused on automating, really digitizing the back end of business in general. Help us understand. You said you had 2 million users. How many folks are paying you? How many customers are you serving?
So we actually don't disclose that number for lots of reasons.
Come on, René, give me a range, a big range. The more vague you want to be, the bigger the range you give.
It's a slippery slope, so better not to disclose.
That's okay. So, but we can go from
I can say that we have a very, very large customer base that lets us see what's going on in the economy at large, and we know, based on the fact that we have, lots and lots of customers in every state, in every segment, in every industry. We just know a lot about how small business and business is done.
Yep. Makes a lot of sense. We can kind of use the 2 million user number and assume some portion of that obviously makes up your paying customer base. Pulling that forward, though, you have an interesting insight because you have such a large data set into the SMB space. How do you deal with things like gross customer churn every month?
For us, if we get a customer active and get them using it, they don't churn.
Define active, though, René, because that's a really critical tipping point.
Yeah, so active would be that they've actually paid a bill, they've loaded a document, they've done a sync with an accounting package. If they do any of those three things, for the most part, they don't leave us.
Interesting.
And when I say the most part, I mean like well over 90%, right? If they sign up and then they don't do any of those things, and in particular, if they don't get the sync done or don't get a payment done, then within 90 days, we might lose 20% of them.
And what are those? Give me a sense of the commitment they're making to you financially. What are they, like you mentioned, you're obviously a monthly kind of payment. What's the average customer paying you per month?
The average customer is paying us around $100 a month.
Okay, so not a huge commitment.
No, and actually they start off smaller than that. Because they're just paying for subscription fees, and then transactions they're just kind of paying a la carte, right? So in the first month, you can try it risk-free. If you don't sign up, if you don't want to continue, you don't pay us anything. So.
And what is the, by the way, I want to pull this lesson out for a second, because there's a lot of SaaS folks I talk to who just focus on churn, and they assume a sign-up occurs just when someone puts their information in a website form, versus saying, no, they're not really a customer until they do these activation steps. And so, guys, I would really encourage you guys to do, obviously, what René has done and understand what steps you need to get users to take to make them very, very sticky. René, how do you handle folks tactics, like name one or two tactics you're using from sign up date to activation date to get them to do the things you know they need to do to stick?
Well, yeah, I think it's amazing what SaaS tools have become available, right? But, the marketing team, the sales team have a ton of automation tools to engage customers, to let them know what they need to do next specifically. We have, obviously the sales team is reaching out to their leads to make sure that they got everything they need. We do a bunch of stuff, a bunch of A/B testing on how we onboard customers. So every month we're learning how to get more customers to actually engage. And so it's just, people assume, a lot of times people will assume, God, it's going to be so much work. And when they find out that it's like less than 15 minutes to actually get up and going and sync with your accounting software and to start paying all your bills, and they no longer have to print checks, and they no longer have to worry about how to communicate with their vendors or their employees about it, they're just blown away, right? But you just have to get them believing that. And so engaging is the key thing there.
And are you adding, call it more or less than 2,000 new active businesses every month?
Oh, yeah.
Are we talking like tens of thousands? I'm trying to get a general idea of growth, like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, 10,000?
Well, it also, again, it kind of depends on, so our paying customer versus those nodes, there's an order of magnitude difference between the two, but,
if we talk about active users, that's a good term to use, right? You guys use that in turn?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
tens of thousands?
Again, excellent question.
I wish you guys could see Renee's face. I'm trying, guys. I'm pushing him. I'm trying. But we'll say this. He said definitely yes to 2,000. So they're adding more than 2,000 new active businesses per month. We'll leave it at that. Let's move forward, Greg, in terms of Renee, in terms of activation and acquiring new customers that you think have a good chance of activating. What are you spending on paid acquisition each month and back into CAC that way if you can?
Yeah, so the main thing that we track is, how many months is the payback. And so, I kind of gave you, our targets around $100 in revenue and, our payback, depending on the channel, and we have three different ways that we go to market. We go to market through accountants, we go to market through banks, we go to market direct. Also, in addition to banks, we have a great partnership with Intuit, where we are just in the process of becoming embedded inside of QuickBooks Online.
Oh, great.
And so, anyways, our payback target is, somewhere between 10 and 15 months, and generally we hit that.
So call it CAC is between $1,000 and $1,500, depending on the channel. That'll go higher or lower.
Yeah.
A lot of people miss this. There's a lot of people I hear, they'll talk about, our LTV to CAC ratio is great. And I say, well, what's the time though on that ratio? And they say, well, it takes 24 months. And I'm going, yeah, you're gonna have a huge cash gap problem.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You gotta watch cash, and that's one of the things I learned from Dad and Granddad is cash is king, and stretch out the payables and pull in the receivables. And if you don't really understand how to do that, you will be at a disadvantage in growing your business.
And looking at some of your cohort analysis, what do you assume the average lifetime value of one of your customers are?
Well, the thing is we assume, well over 5 years, but we don't actually know because, the data is just growing so fast, and, we expect that, customers will last longer. So we've had some customers obviously been in market now for maybe 8 years, and, that cohort is very, very strong. And so it was very small, right? So, we don't know. We know it's at least 5 years.
Yep. Talking about cash, so your last round, I think if my research team did this properly, back was April 2015, a $30 million venture round, which is actually followed super close to your Series F, I think, for $50 million in February that same year. Are those both accurate?
Not exactly.
Okay.
So we raised 30 plus 20 of debt, that's why it gets to 50.
That's Silicon Valley Bank?
Yeah. So the 30 was effectively, April's a little bit late. It was actually a few months earlier than that, but that's fine.
Got it. So that 30 was actually part of the Series F 50, and 20 of it was the venture debt.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. So here's my question to you. This was 2015, and you look at funding cycles. You're right now, as you look at me through your Skype video, you are either raising another round or you're selling your company to Intuit for a lot of money. Which one is it?
I'm so focused on just making this happen for businesses.
Yeah.
And so I actually don't think about exits. And so, from a raising a round perspective, my strategy has always been to just maintain strong relationships with the venture community, and if I need capital, I do the job and get it done. So I'm not raising around right now, but I have the connections, and if we need more capital, I'm not worried about raising it.
Awesome, good stuff. Team size, what are you guys at right now?
We're at 225 employees.
Where are you guys based?
Palo Alto.
Everyone?
No, we have people. We have some support teams and sales teams across the country.
That's great. And then just remind everyone again, timeline-wise, what year did you launch Bill.com in?
We launched in 2008. Probably June was when we put our first customers on it. Kind of in pilot phase for the next 6 months. So by the end of 2008, right when the recession was kicking in.
Great time to start a business.
Great time to actually start throwing money at marketing.
I see a trend, René. 1999, 2008. You like downturns.
Apparently.
Not bad. Last question I've got for you before we wrap up. You have something interesting here in that you have a massive data set of financial technology data specifically tied to SMBs. A lot of banks, Dodd-Frank, et cetera, are very tight in terms of credit, and they miss a lot of opportunities just because they're so risk averse. Do you have any product that because of the data set you have, where you can lend to people because you feel good about the data you have that other banks might pass over lending to that same small business?
So we do not sell anything today. We have not partnered with anybody today, but I look at our data and we have, plenty of lending partners that would like to get access to our data, plenty of banks that would like it. And our focus is on building out and solving the pain point that, that we know how to solve, which is really kind of the back office and really helping people automate their payments and making payables and receivables really, really simple. So that said, I would imagine someday in the future, we will do something with that to help other people do the lending that they want to be able to do. So.
Like I told you guys at the top of this episode, I have amazing data, and you guys know from my interview style, I love data. But what I love more than data is making it actionable via beautiful dashboards that I can view on my phone, on my TVs in my living room, or even on my laptop as I'm traveling. And the company that I use to create these dashboards, which pulls in data from my Libsyn backend, my Google Analytics backend, Salesforce, and other data sources, is called Clipfolio. You can see an example executive dashboard or my social media command center or my web metrics dashboard at nathanlatka.com/analytics. That's nathanlatka.com/analytics. And you can try it there for free for 3 months. It's Clipfolio. You can try it free for 3 months. Everybody else has to pay. So you get it free for 3 months. Alan's a good friend. He's the CEO of the company. He came on the show. I said, I love your product. Can I feature it? So nathanlatka.com/analytics. Go check it out now. All right. There you guys have it from René. René, let's wrap up here with the famous 5. Number 1, what's your favorite business book?
I'd say it's a combination of the 4 Obsessions of Extraordinary Executives and The Advantage, written by the same guy, Patrick Lencioni.
Number 2, is there a CEO that you're following or studying currently?
I'm pretty fortunate. One of our investors is the founder and CEO of CheckFree, Pete Kite. So he and I have gotten to be pretty good friends, but he's advised me.
What's his name, Campbell. René?
His name is Pete Kite.
Pete Kite.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he sold CheckFree to Fiserv for, close to $4 billion, and wonderful, wonderful person. But anyways, being a payments guy and just, grew it over 30 years, he just has that founder, long-term CEO. And that's actually one of the things that's hard to find with folks, is somebody that's been from day one all the way to the last day.
Well, and we lost a good one with Bill. What was a big lesson you took from him?
Just being direct. He could tell you very clearly that you fucked up, and you wouldn't feel bad about it. You would feel like, yeah, I guess I did. I'll do better next time. And he just had a way of doing that, and that's one that I've tried to learn from, and still I'm trying to learn how to give people that type of direct feedback in a way that is not personal, but is very constructive. So
number 3, is there a favorite online tool you have, obviously besides your own?
Yeah, so obviously Bill.com would be the thing that I would say, just from a time saving. It does actually help me save a lot of time. But the whole thing that Google's doing with Google Docs is really helpful. We use it across the company, and it's just great for iterating and, doing all the work that we need to do that you do to actually run a company. So
Number 4, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
6 to 7.
Okay, so not bad. And what's your situation? Married, single, you have kiddos?
I've got married and have 2 kids, 14 and 12.
Yeah.
So
They have their own businesses yet?
They don't, though. They do ask questions all the time. So I keep giving it whatever learning. The dinner table MBA. Can't stress this enough for those.
That's a book. Holy, you need to trademark that. Holy mackerel, that is a book.
It's true though. It's like you learn so much, and I learned a lot as a kid, and that's something that I try to do with the kids. So hopefully they're learning as well.
And how old are you today?
I'll be 50 this year.
That's great. So take us back 30 years, René. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
I would say don't stress over the hard decisions. They in the end, they all pale in comparison to everything that you do. Like every day, there's reasons to stress. And, I think as you get older, you learn to have that perspective, but especially around hard decisions. Like if you feel like you need to make a pivot, or you feel like you need to change somebody out in the organization, or you feel like, you want to go and do something different, don't stress about it. Humans adapt, and they adapt very well. So just move on and make the decision. Stress is not the thing that gets you there.
There you guys have it from René, CEO of Bill.com. Don't stress over the hard decisions. Eventually, they all pale. He started back when he was 32 years old, 1999, with PayCycle, raised $50 million in 2009, sold that for $170 million in cash to Intuit. Then ended up launching on the back of that new company, Bill.com, over $120 million raised, about 230 employees there in Palo Alto, focused on saving small businesses, time. Their average ARPU is about $100 per month, saving them time on all their back-end related items. 2016, over $40 billion in purchase in money processed. Average volume is $1,700 to $2,000 per transaction. Over 2,000 users. René, you have your pulse on the small business market. Thank you for taking us to the top.
Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate it.
All right.
Good luck, everybody.
If you enjoyed René today, go back and listen yesterday to Laurent Demol. I asked him how the startup was able to recruit him away from PayPal. Now his company, the startup he joined, is called PayU. They've passed $180 million in revenue, and he's now growing their financial services arm. Tune in to find out how to recruit rock stars like Laurent to your startup. It would mean the world to me if you guys got any value from this episode, if you would go leave a review on iTunes right now and then subscribe. I hustle like heck to get these episodes out every freaking day for you guys. And trust me, I love it. I would do it with no listeners, but boy, oh boy, it makes my day and it makes my team's day when we see great reviews and get your feedback. So thanks so much. Okay, Top Tribe, I love giving away free money. I feel like Oprah giving away cars, and I have something special for you today. How many of you have heard our super sharp guests talk about success they've had with Facebook and Google Ads? Well, all of you listening right now, yes, if you're listening, you get $100 in free AdWords. Here's how you get it, okay? Again, thanks for listening. Get the free $100 from Google, right, when you sign up with my website host provider, HostGator. Go sign up now to get your free money. HostGator.com/Nathan. Again, that's HostGator.com/Nathan.